You know, a lot of people ask us, how do you choose wine? Well, you know, we have a little retail store next to our cooking school, and I start my morning the same way a lot of people do. Well, actually, that's not completely true. I start my morning with that cup of coffee, but then I go into the wine shop and I take a look at wines because I want to see what's going to work with the meal for that evening. One of the things I do, and I highly recommend to a lot of people, is pick up a bottle of wine and take a look at it. And when I say take a look at it, don't look at the front of the label, look at the back of the label. I've got a bottle of the Stangland 2003 Chardonnay as an example, and I'm trying to see what type of information the winemaker has provided for me. So as I read this, I see it's a 2003 vintage. It has been aged in French oak for 11 months, but here's what I'm looking for. Great balance of ripe fruit, acidity, and toasty oak, which combine to give a long, smooth finish. A perfect match to many foods from crab to poultry. Crab to poultry, bingo. That tells me that this is probably going to work really well with crab and poultry. Now, it doesn't tell me about grilled meats, fruit sauces, and things like that, but it's a pretty surefire way to go when I'm looking to pair food and wine. Let me go with another example. Put that one back here. I've got a bottle of Sacoblasser Mediterrana. Same kind of thing, going to the back of the label. Mediterrana, a perfect marriage of Pinot Noir, Syrah, and Zinfandel. So this is a blend. Let's see, it's rich, juicy, full of fruit, and reminds some of a slice of Marionberry pie. Wow, talk about a descriptor. Marionberry pie. Now, to me that says, ooh, it's going to be sweet like Marionberry pie. Well, I know it's not going to be sweet, but you know, for somebody who's just pulling a bottle, I might put that one back. But I'll tell you, I've tried this. It's a fantastic wine, so I'm probably going to use it anyway. The other thing here is, if you're a fan of Syrah, Zinfandel, or those types of wines, this really tells you some factors that you might want to know. And blends, I got to tell you, blends are a great way to go if you're really, really not sure, especially if you're new at this kind of thing. When you're going to a dinner party, as a great example, Lenore always says, you know what? Bring a blend, because when you've got 3 grape varietals in a bottle of wine, that's a perfect way to go, because generally speaking, when you're eating food with these wines, whatever varietal seems to need to pop with that food, it does. Let me kind of explain. Syrah is kind of spicy with that full fruit, and if you've got something spicy that you're eating or something with a lot of fat in it, those grape varietals seem to go towards the Syrah, or the Syrah rather seems to pop with that food item. So blends are a really good way to go. We talk more about that in our class, as you all know. So I'm going to put this bottle back. The interesting thing to me always is when people come into our wine shop, at least the wine section of our store, and as you can see, it's not huge. We really promote wines, first off, as much as possible from the local growing community, which is Oregon for us. But we focus on wines that really bring a lot to the table, that are a little more unique, and that can really tell a story. And for me, telling a story is a lot of it. But we don't have everything. And so for us, you know, we're a great local community. We've got the Wine Shack down the street. We've got Laurel's further up the street. And wine merchants are a great resource. I think people are a little intimidated when they walk into a wine store to ask the questions. You know what? They're there to sell you some wine. So I think the only thing you need to worry about when you walk in is, what am I cooking for dinner? And if you're not sure about that, sometimes pick a good wine and then you can determine what you're going to cook for dinner from that wine. But don't be afraid to ask questions, because that's what the people are there for. And furthermore, you don't have to spend a lot of money for wine. Wine is meant to be consumed and enjoyed. And so if you're intimidated by it, you're not going to enjoy it. So a couple more key points. When buying wine, buy a wine that feels good to you. Don't feel pressured into buying wine. And if you're looking to cook with wine, same kind of thing. You want to cook with wine that you're going to drink, because if you don't use a good quality wine in your food product isn't going to taste as good. So, and you know, as I always say, a little goes a long way. If you got a good quality wine that you're cooking with, don't use a lot of it. So, there you go. There are some of the wine basics. Shop locally as much as possible. Ask good questions, and don't be afraid to look at the labels. And when in doubt, again, rule number 1, ask questions. That's what they're there for, and in today's day and age, it's not an issue. One last note. A lot of wine stores will put labels on their wines. Let's pull the champagne off for an example. Now this is a sparkling wine. It's not a champagne because it does come from that region of France, but this has a label on it, and this is something we do as well. It's a Washington State sparkling blush, dry, slightly fruity. That's a good indicator of what's happening with this wine as well. And a lot of wine shops will put notes from the Wine Spectator or the Wine Enthusiast, kind of letting you know how others have rated these wines. So there's a lot of great information out there. All you need to do is open your eyes and look, and don't be afraid to ask questions.